Okay, we are a minute past the half hour, so I'm going to go ahead and recommend that we get going here to make best use of our time. But really just wanted to welcome everyone to start. This is the CAA Circular Action Alliance's Q4 webinar and our last of what has been a very busy and momentous year. My name is Olivia Barker, and I support the communications team at Circular Action Alliance, or CAA. I will be our MC today, and I will quickly take us through some housekeeping so we can get to the good stuff and a very full agenda. We're really humbled by the response to today's webinar. I think we had over 1,000 people sign up. And because we have quite a few new people joining us, I'm just going to quickly give an overview of who CAA is before we dive in. So CAA is the nonprofit producer responsibility organization that will implement our country's first extended producer responsibility laws for paper and packaging. If you're new to EPR and new to CAA, at the highest level, these are laws now present in California, Colorado, Maine, Minnesota, and Oregon that obligate those that are responsible for bringing packaging into the market for managing that packaging at the end of life. This, in varying ways, depending on the state, shifts the cost of recycling from local governments and ratepayers to these companies who are referred to in law, and we will refer to them as producers in this presentation. These laws require the formation of a compliance organization to help producers meet their financial and, in some cases, operational responsibilities under these laws and to drive towards ambitious goals that further packaging circularity. So CAA is such an organization and was formed in response to these laws in 2022. And for the past 2 years, we've been preparing for the implementation of packaging EPR and pursuing our mission to help producers comply with these laws, to deliver harmonized best-in-class services, and work with governments, businesses, and communities to reduce waste and recycle more. You'll learn more about where we are in this process state to state in just a minute. But before we dive in, a few quick announcements. This webinar is open to any and all interested parties. It is being recorded, and we will share it out via email and post it to our website in the coming days. We appreciate there may be some media in attendance. There will be a Q&A session at the end, and we just ask that media hold their questions and let other interest holders submit questions at that time. You can follow up with the comms team with any specific questions if you are a member of the media by emailing media@circularaction.org. Again, we will be taking Q&A at the end. We hope to reserve at least 15 minutes for questions. Given the size of this group, we are going to use the Q&A function in Zoom to take questions, and we will not be able to respond to questions in writing. As the webinar goes on, I'll be reviewing the questions. We'll be looking for trends and flagging the most frequently asked questions for responses from our panelists at the end. We do review all the questions that come in, so submit away, and we will use those to inform content and future communications. Finally, if we can go to the next slide for a quick look at the agenda. We are going to have welcome remarks from our CEO, Jeff Fielkow, and brief intros to our newest leadership team members here at CAA. That's Lorene Urbina, Rachel Wagner, and Jeff Myers. I will then go very briefly through some state-by-state updates, but before we have our Oregon Communications Manager, Alex Bertolucci, give us an overview of our recent program plan submission in Oregon, and then we'll hear from Jeff Inch, our SVP of Producer Services. And then we'll go to questions. So with that, I'd like to go to the next slide and turn it over to our CEO, Jeff, for opening remarks.
Thank you, Olivia. Again, my name is Jeff Fielkow, and I am the CEO for Circular Action Alliance. And I want to start off with a few thanks. Firstly, Olivia, thank you to you and your communications team, not only for hosting this webinar, but for relentlessly all year making sure that we've been able to have good open forum communication and transparent communication with not only our producers, but all interested parties that are interested in the work that's being done. I'd also like to thank all of those that have already reached out to me since I've taken over as CEO. I've been able to reconnect with many old colleagues that I've worked with in the past at various parts of the supply chain, along with many new people that have really helped form my opinion in terms of what we really need to focus on. You've enabled me to have a much deeper understanding of the work that we are doing and need to continue to do. So thank you for your trust and your partnership as we build this momentum together. I'd also like to thank the CAA team and our subject matter experts for achieving some pretty significant milestones. Firstly, we recently just completed and submitted the final program plan for Oregon, and we're deep in the process with our program plan in Colorado, and the team has done an outstanding job working with a variety of interested parties in the development of the program in a very collaborative manner. We are also making plans and intend to submit for new states that are coming online, Minnesota being one. And so as new states start to emerge, we are building our plans accordingly. When you look at the expansion that we've done not only all year, but we've really accelerated in the second half of the year, we've accelerated our team of employees and also our subject matter experts who are really helping stand up the entity. And I'd like to just do a quick introduction and let them do their own on three of our newest senior executives that have joined CAA. All of them are well known in their space, and I'm very happy to have them as part of CAA. So Lorene Urbana, who you'll hear from, is the SVP of Communications, and she most recently joined us from Tetra Pak, where she was the VP of Communications. You'll then hear from Rachel Wagner, who is our California Executive Director, who joins us from Cal Recycle, where she was the Director of Cal Recycle, and Jeff Myers, who is our Chief Strategy Officer, joining us as an executive, and where he was also most recently at TRP as in a similar role. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our execs and let them introduce themselves. And we've got a great program lined up for today. So thanks for participating and being part of our journey.
Great, thank you, Jeff. So I'll kick off. As Jeff mentioned, Lorene Urbina, joining CAA most recently from Tetra Pak. Spent the last 10 years in the packaging space, so it's been really fascinating kind of watching the evolution of CAA over that time. So it's really exciting to be joining the team and digging in and helping CAA kind of move toward the future and really digging into this great work. From here, I'll kick it over to Rachel.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be joining you today. I'm really excited to be joining CAA in this new capacity. For those of you who don't know me, I have worked for the state of California for nearly 30 years before March of 2024, and have had the honor and privilege of working with CAA in this capacity since the summer, in an advisory capacity since the summer, and was very honored to be asked to join as the executive director for California. Very, very excited to be working with this incredibly talented team under the amazing leadership of Jeff Filkow, to build a very successful extended producer responsibility program here in California, Oregon, Colorado, and across the United States. So very excited to be joining all of you today and look forward to working with you in the future. With that, I will pass it over to Jeff Myers.
Oh, Jeff, I don't know if you're able to come off mute and on screen here. All right, that may be a technical difficulty, in which case we can come back. Oh, there you are, Jeff. We can't hear you, so why don't we'll move on, and hopefully we can come back and do your intro at the Q&A if that works for you.
Try.
Oh, there you are. Now we can hear you.
Very sorry. Not sure what's happening there.
No problem.
Great to see everybody. So glad to be joining this outstanding team as the Chief Strategy Officer. Sorry for those glitches and for holding you up. As CSO, I have three primary responsibilities. One is to lead the project management for the company. Two is to lead our performance management, which is all our dashboards, KPIs, scorecards, making sure we're delivering our targets. And three is really obviously working on a long-term strategy for the company. And all that work's connected, and it's really about making sure we're delivering on the statute goals in an efficient and effective way. So really excited to join the team. As Jeff Filko mentioned, spent the last 10 years at the Recycling Partnership. Pretty familiar with the number of the folks on this call, and just looking forward to working together again and shaping the future. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Olivia, and sorry for the delay.
No problem at all. Well, thanks so much, Jeff and team, and welcome to our new leaders. It's very exciting to have you on board, and we look forward to giving our interested parties on this call an opportunity to connect with you as well. All right, I'm going to ask if we can go to the next couple slides here. Next slide, please, Mark. I am going to take us through some state-by-state updates. As I mentioned, we've got a deep dive on Oregon and a deep dive on topics of interest for producers in particular. So we'll go through these relatively quickly. But again, knowing we have some new people in the virtual room today, I'll just take a moment to remind the audience as we talk about each state where CAA has been officially approved as the pro and where we are either preparing for approval or monitoring next steps in the regulatory process. So we were designated as the single pro in Colorado in 2023, and we're currently focused on building a program plan that will allow us to hit the ground running when the Colorado program goes live in 2026. As you may know, our work in late 2023 and early 2024 was focused on completing a comprehensive assessment of the current state of recycling in Colorado and opportunities to improve the existing recycling system and system performance. This needs assessment has served as the basis for the program plan, which, as Jeff said, we are now developing. And for those who are newer to the topic, the program plan is a detailed document explaining how CAA as the pro will approach managing and administering a state's packaging EPR program to fulfill the requirements of the law. So in addition to the needs assessment, the Colorado program plan is being informed by a robust series of consultations that we made accessible to all interested parties July through September of this year. We had great participation, I think over 2,000 participants in these sessions, and thank everyone for their engagement and the feedback that was provided both in follow-up meetings and in detailed questionnaires. So again, currently finalizing the program plan, the first draft of the program plan, I should say, which is due to the regulator, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, on or before February 1st, 2025. CAA is also officially the single pro in California. We received this designation early this year and have been actively participating in the state's rulemaking process and as a member of the Packaging Producer Responsibility Advisory Board. On December 2nd, the state regulator CalRecycle released revisions to proposed rules, which interested parties may comment on up until December 17th. So this is the second written comment period for rule revisions in California, and the law stipulates that rules in California must be finalized by January 1st, 2025. The California Packaging EPR program does not officially start until January 1st, 2027. But as you'll hear from Jeff Inch in a few moments, there is a lot that producers must do to prepare for implementation, and we will be working to support that. We're working to support it now, and we'll be working to support that through next year, in addition to working through the program planning process under Rachel's leadership. Next slide, please. Great. I will go light on Oregon because we do have a deep dive with Alex in just a moment. But I want to underscore that 2025 is a big year for CAA and for packaging EPR because it is a year in which we will have the first operational packaging EPR program in the United States. And that comes with the Oregon program going live in July 2025. There's been a tremendous amount of work undertaken both by the regulator, the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, or DEQ, and CAA as the prospective pro to prepare for next year. And we are ready. We got a step closer to EPR implementation last month with DEQ approving final rules, and also with the submission of CAA's third and final program plan just last Friday. Oregon is a little unique in that CAA did not submit a pro application to be approved before program plan submission, but will be approved once that final plan is accepted by DEQ. So I'll pause on Oregon there and just let Alex take us through some more details shortly. Maine has also finalized rules recently. I believe that happened on December 5th. CAA is not the stewardship organization, which is another term for producer responsibility organization in Maine, but we are closely monitoring the regulatory process as well as providing feedback. So the Maine Department of Environmental Protection is expected to put out an RFP for prospective stewardship organizations late next year, with selection happening in the spring of 2026. And the Maine law doesn't explicitly refer to a program start date, but the first fees in Maine are due in September 2026. And those are specifically for stewardship organization startup, with packaging material fees coming due in September 2027. Next slide, please. As we noted on our last webinar, Minnesota is the most recent state to pass a law creating a packaging EPR program, and that happened just at the end of their legislative session this year. There's a quick turnaround for pro approval in Minnesota, and I'm pleased to share that CAA will be applying to be the single pro there for a decision, hopefully in early 2025. And finally, we have Maryland, which has not signed a packaging EPR program into law, but it has created a process for studying and recommending future EPR legislation, and that was established through previous legislation. CAA serves as the single nonprofit pro on an advisory council formed by the state as part of that legislation. And that advisory council plans to deliver recommendations after the state has concluded a statewide needs assessment, which is expected to be wrapped up by the end of January 2025. So with those rapid fire updates, it is my pleasure to go to the next slide and turn things over to our Oregon Communications Manager, Alex Bertolucci.
Thank you, Olivia. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here today. As Olivia mentioned, I'm Alex Bertolucci, the Oregon Communications Manager for Circular Action Alliance. Today, I'll provide an update to Oregon's EPR program called the Recycling Modernization Act, or the RMA. Next slide. There's been a lot going on since our last quarterly update. The big highlights include the adoption of the second set of rules by Oregon's Environmental Quality Commission and CAA's submission of the third and final draft of the program plan. Looking into the future, we expect to receive final acceptance of the program plan by DEQ in February or March of 2025. The recently adopted rules do set a producer registration and reporting date of March 31st, 2025. This date allows CAA to get producer data to set final fees and send invoices in June, just before the program launches on July 1st. Next slide. Draft 3 of the program plan that was just submitted last Friday, December 6th, had many updates in it, and this slide shows a few of the high-level updates that were included in the plan. The final draft of the program plan includes refined elements, thanks in part to the completion of the Oregon System Optimization Project, or ORSOP, which we'll review more in depth on a later slide. Other updates included in the final draft addressed comments from Oregon DEQ and the Oregon Recycling Council, which is the advisory board overseeing the implementation of the RMA. The plan also includes 2 finalized eco-modulation bonuses, provides a schedule of investments that CAA will make to expand the recycling system in Oregon, and shares a list of interested parties that will serve as producer responsibility organization collection points, accepting materials on the PRO recycling acceptance list. And lastly, the program plan includes updates on how CAA will engage with interest holders across the program. If you haven't yet, I'd encourage you to take some time to review the program plan, as this is CAA's roadmap to RMA implementation. Next slide. These next few slides will further dig into specific areas of the program plan. First off, let's talk about responsible end markets, also called REMS. The RMA seeks to address the problem of confidence in recycling by ensuring that materials being recycled by Oregonians are recycled responsibly. The RMA requires CAA to ensure that materials collected as part of the Uniform Statewide Collection List, or the PRO acceptance list, go to these responsible end markets. These are the places where recyclables will go to be processed into raw materials or feedstocks, and hopefully cause less harm to the environment and the people in those communities. CAA is working with the Recycled Materials Standard to develop a material neutral audit protocol for REM verification. We will also be creating a working group to begin field testing the protocols in January of next year. And if all goes as planned, CAA will have 25 REMs verified by the end of 2025. Next slide. One of the goals of the RMA is to reduce the environmental impacts of packaging. The RMA encourages producers to find innovative solutions to reduce their packaging's impact through a system of graduated fees called eco-modulation. CAA will propose in total 3 eco-modulation bonuses. These are based on life cycle assessments, or LCAs. The first 2 bonuses, bonus A and bonus B, are outlined in the 3rd draft of the program plan. There's a bonus for voluntarily disclosing the environmental impacts of a package, and a larger bonus for demonstrating an environmental impact reduction when making a design or manufacturing change to your packaging. For that bonus, that's bonus B, the greater the environmental reduction, the larger the bonus that could be granted. The last bonus, bonus C, which is still in development and will be proposed via a program plan amendment in 2025, will focus on reducing packaging impacts through reusable packaging. Next slide. Now let's focus on an update to producer registration and fees. Next slide. To establish fair and accurate fees, CAA uses 3 data points. First, system costs. These are the costs of implementing and operating the RMA, such as system expansion, education and outreach material, CAA staff, and contamination reduction funding, to name a few. The second factor in establishing fees is the total number of producers. Ensuring an accurate producer count and market share coverage is vital to eliminating free riders in the system. We'll hear about an update on producer registration numbers in a bit from Jeff Inch. And lastly, supply data. Producers will report their supply data to CAA by March 31st, 2025. This data will show the total amount of covered products sold in Oregon and a breakdown of that material into different reporting categories on which CAA sets fees. Next slide. The first data point that we just saw for fee setting was system costs. For the first 2 program plans, CAA only had system cost data from DEQ's needs assessment. This data was incomplete, so CAA undertook one of, if not the most robust mapping of Oregon's recycling system ever completed, called the Oregon System Optimization Project, or ORSOP. This project involved surveying and interviewing local governments and service providers around the state to understand future investment needs better. We worked with several partners and interviewed 191 communities and 35 waste sheds. The ORSOP data gave CAA a more informed and granular view of future system needs, substantially reducing system costs and funding requirements. Next slide. Thanks to that ORSOP data, we were able to right-size the investments for the future recycling system needs and reduce costs by more than $200 million. Obtaining a baseline of prospective depot locations helped refine estimated operating costs of the PRO depot system, saving an additional $55 million. As a national PRO, preparing to operate EPR programs in several states, CAA is able to leverage economies of scale in developing REM verifications and creating cost sharing among states, thus reducing costs associated with REMs. As overall system costs were reduced, so were regulatory costs. Other minor changes took place in contamination reduction and transportation reimbursement as well. A full budget can be found in Appendix E of the program plan. Next slide. Our last slide looks at what will happen on July 1st, 2025. Remember that the RMA will turn on like a dial, not a switch, which means a gradual and education-focused rollout. Producers will begin to pay fees, and CAA will start providing funding to communities for things like contamination reduction and system expansion in first priority communities. Permitted recycling facilities will receive funding to help with contamination and commodity market fluctuations. There's a lot to get done in the next few months, but CAA is positioned to work with interest holders across the state to successfully deliver the program launch on July 1st. Producer Services is creating the resources to ensure producers have the information they need to prepare for reporting. Oregon and CAA will be ready for the changes that the Recycling Modernization Act brings. Thanks for your time today, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Inch from our Producer Services team.
Great. Thank you very much, Alex, and really glad to be here today. I want to spend a little time talking about updates on our producer registration, some of the key steps that producers are undertaking right now and will need to take over the next few months, and really give an update on preparedness overall for an approaching reporting deadline, which is our first for the Oregon program at the end of the first quarter next year. So we'd love to jump into that. Let's go to the next slide. First of all, really proud of the progress that the team has made and the engagement with producers on this call and even beyond. It's been amazing to see these numbers grow for producer registrations. If you've been tracking this at all in some of our webinars, you'll notice that we've had quite an increase here in total registrations. And we really believe in our model of helping to support producers that have obligations across multiple states. So you'll see that there's a very high percentage of producers that have multiple obligations across California, Colorado, and Oregon, which is really giving us a great opportunity to harmonize our services and our preparedness activities for producers at CAA. Another metric that we track is a subset of some of the larger producers that we've identified. And we have captured a really high rate of those identified producers as well. I really just want to point out the numbers actually have grown quite disproportionately in Oregon as well. I think as we approach the deadline, Oregon obligated producers are really coming to CAA and beginning to engage in reporting prep. So really excited about this and want to share an update with everybody on the call today. Let's go to the next slide. So just for some that may not be familiar, what does it look like for a producer to comply with CAA? The main steps here that you really have to take as a producer can be quite simplified into these three categories. First of all, you need to register with CAA. We just talked about the number of producers that are already doing so and engaging with us. You must report supply data into CAA, and CAA is working really hard right now, our team especially, in helping to educate producers on those requirements and guidance around that reporting, and really helping producers get started on that. And then you pay fees in, and we have a number of resources and webinars that we've done in the past and will continue to do about our fee setting methodology and how important, Alex mentioned this, right, how important full participation and accurate reporting is to the fee setting process that CAA follows. So throughout that process, CAA does have resources to support producers, including for potential producers. We have guidance that helps you understand what the covered materials are and the producer definitions for each category of covered material, with a big focus on Oregon and Colorado so far. So we published that document in September. It is on our website. If you have any questions about whether you have a covered material that you put into the market, or if you meet the obligated producer definition, I would encourage you to visit our website and check out that guidance. We'll link to that in the chat. In addition to that, we host either every week or every other week an onboarding session where you don't have to be registered. You can come ask your questions. Our Producer Resource Center is on the website as well and is much more comprehensive than just the guidance. So there's a lot of resources there for people to take a look at and begin to learn more about the journey through their compliance steps with CAA. And I do want to mention, we'll talk a bit about this more down the road here, but our producer support team is beginning to staff up. We've got a lot of questions. We really appreciate people reaching out to us on their specific scenarios. And we are working through all those questions right now and working to get back to producers as quickly as we can. Once you register, there are additional information sessions you get access to. There's educational resources. There is reporting guidance that is available. And we are also moving in the first quarter to our producer portal, where you will have a one-stop shop for a lot of information, as well as where you will submit your reports to CAA. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so wanted to kind of give everybody an update on what registration and reporting really looks like for CAA here over the next 12 months. And perhaps this visual will be helpful just to kind of map for people where we are today and where we're going. So right now we have a new registration form that has been updated. We'll talk about that in a second. We're going to double click on each of these 1, 2, and 3 items. But we have established a new registration form for producers. If you haven't done that already, we encourage you to do that as soon as possible. It is available as of the beginning of November. Once that's completed, CAA will issue a participant producer agreement. And that is the master services agreement at the national level that we are encouraging producers to sign by the end of this year. That sets all your base terms and conditions with CAA. And then there will be a specific agreement per state that has the specific requirements of that state lined out there. And the reason those are separated is because, as we're finalizing the program plans, as you've heard, Oregon's final is in there. A lot of the details that are in the plan will be making their way into the specific addendum. So it is really tailored to the state program requirements. And then reporting will be built on the back of each of these specific state contracts for each state. That will occur in our portal. The date for Oregon is March 31st, 2025. And just a flag here that signing of the PPA and the Oregon State Addendum is required to submit your report by March 31st. So really want to kind of provide an overview here. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to double click on items 1, 2, and 3 and give a status on where everybody is at and what they need to do next. Let's go to the next slide. Great. So number 1, our updated registration form. We're really excited. This is the start of a new tool for us, which is the producer portal. So really the question has come up, why are you doing an updated registration? Well, the main reason is because we would like to issue you our participant producer agreement. We need a bit more information from you in order to do that. So we need some additional contact information. We need some additional company information that's going to help us also prepare for meeting our own regulatory reporting requirements. So that is the next step. If you have not done this, as we mentioned, it was launched on November 11th. We really encourage you to sign this or update your registration at the link below, circularaction.org/registration, as soon as possible, hopefully within the month of November, so you can sign the participant, or not November, December, here, so you can sign the participant producer agreement by the end of the year. We'd love to have that done so that when we're ready to launch the portal next year, you'll be able to get in there because you'll have your agreement signed. All right, let's go to the next slide. The next step in the process, once you do your, and I mentioned this, once you do your updated registration, you're going to get a link to sign the PPA. So let me talk about what this participant producer agreement is. So for participant producers, these are the companies that are going to register with CAA and participate in programs with CAA for their compliance interests in the EPR jurisdictions where CAA is operating. And as a pro, we're going to have this same agreement with thousands of different producers. So we are signing this with all producers that are working with us and participating in our programs. And to be clear, we really have a core operating principles of fairness, and that applies to this document as well. So we will have a consistent set of obligations, terms, and conditions with all producers as we issue out these PPA to the thousands of participants. Lastly, just another reminder, we do encourage producers to follow these first 2 steps and to sign this document by the end of the year. Any questions that you may have on the document, our team is available to answer those, and we can provide a template ahead of time. If you need to review that with your legal teams, please reach out to us and we will help you work through this process. And we really appreciate all those that have signed it already. I'll just mention, we didn't have numbers on the slide on this, but we have had hundreds of companies that have already completed this step and signed the PPA. So really, really appreciate the engagement from those companies that are moving through the process with us. Let's go to the next slide. All right, and then the great benefit of signing the PPA now is you're ready to get in the portal next year, but you also will be sent, following signing of the PPA, reporting guidance that is going to help support the readiness for preparing your supply data report. I will talk a bit about that in a second, but I just really want to take a step back and talk about guidance in general. We have multiple types of guidance that CAA will be developing for producers. The first one here we talked about earlier was available in September. It really helps you determine, do you have covered materials? Are you the obligated producer? Usually that's used by companies to help make the registration decision. So you register your company after you've reviewed that and applied your business scenarios to it. Then guidance number 2, upon signing the PPA, you're going to do some reporting with CAA in the first quarter of next year. This is a document that really has a lot of detail about reporting requirements, methodologies that you can use, how to report your specific volumes and weights of covered materials to CAA. And we're going to be doing additional guidance about how to use the portal as well next year. So this is all just really giving you the tools that you need to be compliant with CAA and submit your reports on time. And in addition to that, the material reporting categories are in the Program Plan 3 link for Oregon that was shared, but the definitions, detailed definitions of each of those categories is in final review right now as well. So when you sign the PPA, very shortly, we'll be able to provide those detailed definitions for you also. Great, let's go to the next slide. And we're almost wrapping up here. Just to recap for everybody, update your registration as soon as you can, sign the PPA with us, review your guidance, and begin preparing your report. And we've got a number of ways for you to reach out to us as you're navigating this process in the coming months. Let's go to the next slide. So with that in mind, we've got a couple of from-tos, and this is really the last thing I want to share with you. We're going to be doing a lot more engagement to increase our ability to help get producers ready. We realize that the onboarding sessions have people that come in and ask some questions, and then maybe they have additional questions. So we're going to look at doing some deeper dives on onboarding in 2025. We're also going to be taking the producer working group and really trying to get to topic-specific meetings like our reporting workshops, which some of you have participated in this year. And by the way, just really appreciate all the thank yous that you've sent to the team for those sessions. A lot of work went into that, and we really appreciate everybody who's thanked us for those sessions. We feel those have been really productive as well. And as I mentioned, we're going to be doing producer portal training as we get the portal launched in Q1. And then I think the most important thing I want to flag for anybody who has a question as a producer about any of this, we know it's a lot to digest here on one call, but feel free to reach out to producer.support@circularaction.org. This is the fastest way for producers to get their questions answered. We are working the queue daily. The team is growing. Service is going to continue to improve on that site, on that inbox, and we really encourage you to start there for any of your producer questions. So great. I think that's it for me. I think we have one page just kind of recapping some of the ways to stay engaged with us, but I've covered many of these, so I'll throw it back to you, Olivia.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks so much, Jeff. And this is awesome because we've left good time for questions here. I'll just comment quickly on this. As Jeff mentioned, we're constantly evolving the guidance and clarifying things as we get updates from our conversations and the state regulatory processes on our website. So the website continues to be a helpful resource and a place where we try and aggregate as much information as possible. In particular, that Producer Resource Center is where a lot of that public guidance that Jeff mentioned is living. So feel free to check that out, and that's also where you can access links for registration, which have also helpfully been put in the webinar chat here. So thanks to my colleague Sydney for doing that. Other communications channels, if you're not signed up for our monthly newsletters, I suspect many are, as that's one of the places where we publicize events like this. If you go back to the last slide, please. Then that's a great place to stay up to date on the play-by-play in each state, and where you can learn more about different resources, regardless of whether you're a producer or a different kind of interest holder. And then again, the producer working group is something that that Jeff and team have created to go into a lot more detail and increasingly start preparing for the next steps for producer obligations and implementation, and that is accessible to registered producers. So if you haven't registered already, additional incentive to join, to be able to participate in that very detailed session. And Jeff spoke a little bit to how those sessions will evolve next year. We do have I guess we've sort of passed the reporting Q&A listed here. Those reporting Q&A sessions, as Jeff mentioned, will be continuing to next year. So don't fear, there's more to come there. So with that, I am going to ask to go to the next slide just so folks can see sort of the general contact information again, very briefly. And then if we could have our panelists come back on camera. I've been taking note of questions, the things that are coming in most frequently. As I said at the beginning, we won't get to everything, but we'll do our very best